twice each summer, and she would pay for everything, and we could go on all the rides and eat anything we wanted and buy anything we wanted. And so I have great memories of Coney Island. Then Coney Island became a hellhole.
Yeah,
and it was one of the leading crime parts of the city. I honestly brought it back.
Yeah,
and particularly with putting the Mets ballpark there, we really brought it back.
The Brooklyn Cyclones.
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't come back quite to where it was going to be. And then Mike and Kelly worked on it, and then the communists took over. And since the communists took over, de Blasio.
Yeah. Well, so it's funny you say that. So I was EMS in Manhattan and Chelsea and, downtown there. And I just saw with my own eyes, the decline of Manhattan with the drugs and the homelessness when de Blasio, he was mayor since 2013, but the decline from 2013 till his time out of office was despicable.
Oh yeah. He began it, and Adams doesn't seem to know how to reverse it. and actually it's gotten worse under Adams. I don't know that he in some ways de Blasio willed it and wanted it.
Right.
De Blasio, Adams doesn't want it, but he doesn't have the courage to stand up to the institutions you have to stand up to stop it, which is why, by and large, Democrats can't govern. Because let's talk. So what are the issues for you in your campaign?
So obviously, Mayor, you've been to Bay Ridge.
Obviously.
Right. You've been to Bay Ridge.
Safety and crime.
I've just walked around businesses. I walked around businesses, and recently Bay Ridge, I don't know if you saw, was on the front page of the Daily News.
I did see it.
When was the last time you saw Bay Ridge on the front page of the Daily News for something bad? Can you remember? I don't know.
No. Bay Ridge is a
right.
suburban type community.
Right.
Really.
So we have a councilman who's been in power since 2017. He's the worst of the worst. He's a socialist.
Who is it?
Justin Brennan. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but
no,
he's
good. I didn't.
Yeah. He's a socialist. He doesn't care about crime. He voted to defund the police. Actually, that was one of his city council votes. Yeah, and now he left the Progressive Caucus in City Council to show that he loves the police all of a sudden.
I see.
Yeah, okay. So
he's
trying
the money back.
No, he didn't.
Right.
No. So we also have someone else running, primarying me. We have two people primarying me. The first person, his name is Ari Kagan. He was a lifelong Democrat. I heard you talking about Russia earlier. He was part of the USSR Communist Party before he moved here.
Oh, nice.
Yes, till 1991.
We got a real communist running.
Yeah, yeah. And lifelong communist, came to America, was a Democrat. Now, all of a sudden, in December 2022, he decided he's a Republican.
Sounds like a plan to me,
He just woke up. But you know why? Because he lost his district in the gerrymandering. So now he thinks he's just going to waltz in my district.
So we're going to beat this guy?
Oh, we're going to beat this guy. Listen, this guy, I went before, after him at the GOP endorsement meeting. You know how those meetings go, those GOP things. They eviscerated him. Nobody likes him. He walks around Bay Ridge. Everyone knows he's a socialist. Everybody knows he's been a Democrat. No one believes this guy's shtick. I'm sorry. And then we have another lady who is telling some fibs about her employment, that she worked for the city. And
is she related to
no she's no no she's not. But she claims she's a teacher, but she hasn't worked since 2016. She claims she lives in Bay Ridge. She lives in Staten Island. So I got two people primarying me. I'm the real deal. I have nothing to hide. Listen, I'm a city worker. I put on for this city. I serve the citizens in the city, no matter what color, creed you are. I don't care if you're gay, trans. Doesn't matter to me.
So this would be a Republican pickup.
Yeah.
Be nice.
But the district is purple. It's not red.
Yeah, no.
Unfortunately, Joe Biden won Bay Ridge in 2020.
It would have been Republican. It's been Republican at times.
It was.
Yeah.
We had Vinny Gentile as a councilman, and he was a moderate Democrat, and it was Republican back then.
I used to win it big.
Thank God for Nicole Malliotakis. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
47th district.
Yes, sir. 47th district. We have Nicole Malliotakis as our congresswoman. Thank God. Because if we didn't, we would just be lost.
Yeah, she had to fight hard for that.
Well, the second time she didn't. She eviscerated Max Rose. It wasn't even even a competition. But the first time she did have to fight hard for it. And
so what do you think about education?
All right. So I was just having this conversation. I was just on Heshi Tischler's show. He asked me the same. So the DOE is failing. We need more charter schools. The admissions of the DOE is going down year by year.
So we're talking to people all over America.
Mm-hmm.
What he's saying is true. I'd say in 90% of American cities.
I agree. Yeah.
Same set of problems.
Mhm.
They're all big decline in
Mhm.
reading scores, big
Mhm.
decline in math scores,
Mhm.
big decline in graduation. Parents wanting alternatives, taking the kids out of public schools,
Mhm.
the teachers union fighting back,
Right.
no charter schools, no private schools, no money for alternatives. All that money's got to come to us,
Right.
the teachers union.
Right. So I actually talked to some teachers and they don't agree with the union heads. As you know, the UFT is the biggest liberal union in the whole United States and they control everything. But a lot of these teachers do not agree
Good.
with the union. They're
They
sick and
shouldn't.
tired of teaching this woke nonsense. You know, drag queen story hour, which is a joke. Like kindergartners shouldn't be learning about drag queens. I'm sorry. That's
Just don't
you
think
know.
in St. Anne's Grammar School we would have had a drag queen coming in.
I mean, listen, you know,
Or in
when I was
Bishop
in kindergarten,
Blockland High School. Wow. I
Yeah.
could just see the Christian brothers dealing with a drag queen.
listen, like I said, you want to be a drag queen? That's cool. I have no problem with that.
Yeah,
this
but
is America.
Yeah, let's not go talk to
No.
the 5-year-olds.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It has no place in schools. If your parents want to teach your children about those kinds of things, by all means, this is America. But when I was in kindergarten, I was learning about 2 + 2. I was learning about red, green, blue, reading Dr. Seuss. Like I wasn't learning about drag queens.
If we did 2 plus,
you know what I mean?
if
Come on,
we-
Ted.
if you did if we did 2 plus
Yeah.
2 and you got it wrong, we don't want to tell you because we don't want you to feel bad.
Right. So
It's-
now
it's-
everybody gets
math
a
is about.
trophy.
This
Yeah, it's
had a whole thing on today on some place or other saying math is about feeling.
right.
I mean, you have to people don't like math because there's not enough feeling in it.
But math is math.
And the explanation is, if you say 2 plus 2 and the person says 5,
No.
and then they say no, they're going to make the person feel stupid. Well, they should feel stupid so they get smart because they are stupid.
Right. Yeah. New York City education, our tax dollars, everyone in this room should not be paying for drag queen story hours and teaching first and second graders what pronouns are. Sorry. I'm just going to die on that hill.
Well, you got it. You got it.
It's because I care. It's care. And I'm single, but if I have children, I don't want them to go to a public school and learn about this woke nonsense. I went to all public schools and I turned out just fine.
Ted is very woke. So let him put.
Is Ted
Let him
woke?
put a toke. Let him put a.
I am wide awake.
Yeah.
I am the opposite of woke. I don't know what that would be. But Mike, before you go, let us know, how can people support you in your campaign? And what is your pitch to folks who may live outside of your district? Why should they support you? And of course, the mayor has endorsed you. So we encourage people to go to your website, which is on the screen here, ragu4nyc.com.
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 Yes. So first, I'll answer your second question first. If you live outside my district, listen, people are leaving my whole district in troves because they're going to Staten Island. They're just sick and tired of Manhattan people coming to our district and living and moving there. Mayor, did you know we pay more property taxes in Bay Ridge than people in Park Slope? And as you know, Park Slope is a much more expensive neighborhood than Bay Ridge.
I didn't know that.
Well, this is actually one of the big problems we have in our neighborhood right now.
How did that happen? This was
No one knows.
It had to be political.
It definitely was political.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So basically, the current councilman thought of a scheme. Oh, we're going to give you $150 back as a rebate. Does that even buy you groceries anymore? No. Does that even fill your tank? Like what is that? But anyway, so no, if I get elected, I want to encourage people to come back to Bay Ridge, come back to my district, because I know it's unsafe. Businesses are leaving. They're worried about crime. And I have the resources because I worked with law enforcement agencies my whole career. And I know people, and we can get this done and we can get change done. And if you want to support me, Mike Ragu is my Instagram, ragu4nyc.com. You can donate. We have a fundraiser on March 8th at the Leaf Bar in Bay Ridge. Unfortunately, the mayor can't come. I'm very upset. I'm going to cry later. But,
Where am I?
Yeah, you're traveling. It's okay. Don't worry. Next one.
Right,
But listen, like I said, change is coming. The seat's flippable. Let's get it done.
Mike,
Mayor,
we got your back.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
We'll
you.
have you
Thank
back.
Thank you.
Yes, now, Justine, come here. One of our favorites, right, Ted?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Thanks for having me again.
Well, nice to have you. So why don't we stick with Mike's topic of education and take it, really, the interesting thing is, used to be that you'd have local stories and national stories, right?
Right.
So New York would be a crime story, and it wouldn't mean much to the rest of the country, which was pretty safe. Now the New York crime story is national. Crime is everywhere, and New York is not even the worst. I mean, it's hard to explain this to people, but we're like a little above the middle. But the crime is much, much worse in Philadelphia, in St. Louis, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco. Now, schools, the same thing with schools. You look at Chicago, the problems in Chicago's school system, same as the problems in our school system. So how do we deal with improving our education so that the mass number of our children don't keep falling behind children in other countries?
It's time to start holding teachers accountable, those teachers who are indoctrinating students. I actually read a story today about a poor 9-year-old little girl who is now having suicidal thoughts because her teacher convinced her that she was a dude.
She was a what?
A dude, a guy, a boy, a little girl. And she gave her a different name. It is sickening. And what's most sickening about a lot of these stories is that, at least in places like Virginia, exactly, you're not even allowed, if you're a teacher, you cannot tell the parents of a child who is questioning their gender or who thinks they're gay. You are forbidden from sharing any personal information about that student with their parents. This is child grooming. And I don't know what's going to happen to this teacher. I don't know if this teacher is going to face any repercussions for trying to convince this little girl that she's a guy, but now she's getting bullied in school for this. I remember when I was in school, indoctrination started a little bit.
Right.
I was lucky to go to a private school where I had a great English department.
Mhm.
But then suddenly we were taught about, I remember my 9th grade class, we were given a worksheet with a backpack called the Knapsack of Privilege. And this was a drawing of a backpack.
Yeah.
And
Did you have to, some people had to take a white privilege test and get rated for white privilege? Did you ever go through that? But this is something like that, right?
I went through similar things when I started college.
Right. And then I guess the theory is they give you a number and that gets deducted from things. So if you get 100, you get 8 points taken off because of your white privilege. You're supposed to do that.
I'm a woman, so I get a couple of privilege points. I'm Jewish, but
Do you get privilege points that or not?
well, all Jews are now considered white, and the far left, they don't like the Jews anymore. They never really have, but they claim they never have, because they say that if you're Jewish, you're white and you're somehow an oppressor. So the same leftists.
This is the group that historically has by far, without any doubt, been the most oppressed in the history of the world.
Exactly.
They're oppressors, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's such, the part about this, Justine, it's so ignorant. It's like you deal with these people and you can't even talk to them because they're so stupid. Like the 1619, America started because of slavery. Slavery was here for 2,000 years before America. I think the problem is it's hard to have conversations.
You can't, because on these college campuses, in school, you'll get shut down. I couldn't even return to campus senior year when I was in college partially because I was receiving death threats for questioning some of this leftist lunacy. They had protests in my school where students would occupy the Chancellor building for weeks to months, demanding that you have separate spaces for Black students in the name of anti-racism.
Separate or safe?
Separate spaces.
Right.
where you would need a safe space. They called it a safe space
Right.
from the evil white students. Now, I thought this would only happen on college campuses. It's still wrong on college campuses, but now this is happening in public schools across the country. I work at Newsmax, and we reported on a story where in a different state, there was this teacher of an elementary school who is trying to host student clubs where only Black students, or what they call BIPOC, Black Indigenous Students of Color.
Do that again for me. I have to get it spelled out.
BIPOC.
B?
BIPOC.
BIPOC. And that is what? Black
Indigenous Persons of Color. Well, I'm a little bit Irish, so I get tan sometimes when we could be people of color.
No, you're not Black. I can see that you're not Black.
I'm not, but
you may be indigenous. I don't know.
Well, I maybe a little more than Liz Warren. But
do you have to be all of these things, or if you were 4 of 5, do you get? I mean, suppose you're indigenous and you're a person of color, but you're not Black.
What constitutes a person of color?
A guy with a tan, a woman with a tan. I think that usually that was a way of including Latinos, right? Latinos, and maybe indigenous people.
Or if you're Indian,
Italians. We're people of color.
I think we're people.
We're very colorful. Yeah, that's it. We're people of color. We get points. We get put ahead. Can we get reparations?
Well, that's the thing. Angela Davis recently found out that now she should be paying reparations because her ancestors were apparently slave owners. Angela Davis, the radical anti-white.
Well, does she have a partial white background? Is that
apparently her?
Or were they Black slave owners? I don't know if there were any Black slave owners.
Apparently, her ancestors were on, or at least one of them was on the Mayflower.
Oh. Well, she might have. She might
allowed to be. I don't think.
Kamala Harris has a white grandfather, a great grandfather who was a slave owner also, and she may be in the category of she's going to have to pay reparations, but then she'll get reparations, and they'll have to do like a.
She's 125th in Native American or something.
Who?
Cherokee. Who are we talking about now?
Kamala Harris.
Oh, sorry, I'm still stuck on Elizabeth Warren. I'm sorry.
Elizabeth Warren doesn't get anything.
No, but she's also part Native American. But we're on to Kamala Harris, who is multiracial, I think is the term.
Yeah, but you see, if you do the reparations thing, you get really screwed up here. Pardon me? I think there's some African American background too for Kamala.
I believe so. I don't know to what degree because I do believe yes.
We should figure it out because she wouldn't know.
More than Meghan Markle.
I when it comes to the I don't even know if they are the royal family anymore, but when it comes to all those jokes go over my head. I'm so out of the loop on I know there's been some additional news
about the royal
family. Well, you're a knight, Mayor. You're a knight, so this is in some ways.
I could lose my knighthood if I say what I think, huh?
It probably. Well, I don't know that they're part of the. Are they still a part of the family? Do you follow them?
I stopped caring about the royal family since 1776.
Oh, that's good.
I may have stolen that line.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, let's put on a song from Hamilton from George III, right? One of George III's. One of George III's songs. But I mean, this. I feel, although I'm not sure of this, I feel like we're beginning the process of straightening this out. I think we're at least we're raising the questions now that we didn't raise in the past about about the damage being done by this kind of racism sort of remedial, all this remedial garbage. I don't think we ever really faced it before. I think people have more courage now to face it and realize how damaging it is. I mean, if you did reparations, a large number of blacks don't have a history of slavery.
Exactly.
Why, man, I have a question. I'm sorry. Why do Italian people have to pay reparations when our ancestors were in Italy?
They shouldn't have to. You should only pay reparations if you had I mean, you shouldn't pay reparations at all.
We weren't here.
But it would only make sense if you come from a family. If reparations is based on you get it because of your family, you got to give it because of your family. So it would be blacks who had a background of slavery and whites who had a background of owning slaves. And
did you know the biggest public lynching in history was Italians?
We do know that.
yeah.
14. No one. We're not asking for reparations.
Well, who says? Maybe we shouldn't give up on that. I do. I have a new cause candidate, and Justine, and that is before any other name is changed because of slavery or any of the other things, the bad things that were done. One injustice has to be rectified. The single biggest supporter of slavery and institution supporting slavery is the Democrat Party.
Yes.
Therefore, the name has to be changed. The name, if you're going to change names like Jefferson and Madison, and you got to get rid of Democrat Party. It had decades and decades of supporting slavery, fighting a civil war over it. Then you want to talk about Jim Crow? That's the Democrat Party. It's a couple hundred years.
What do you suggest their new name should be?
Oh, I have a couple of suggestions.
Marxist creeps.
Yeah, Marxist, the Union.
the Hunter Hotties.
Yeah, how about this? So what do we have, Ted? Take us around our little tour here.
Thanks for joining us. So we've got a lot of comments. First off, a lot of comments in support of Mike Rudy Giuliani for City Council. So we'll want to support Mike any way you can. Of course, that's Regu for NYC.com. Regu for NYC.com. And of course, a lot of comments in support of Justine tonight. Our audience has gotten to know Justine now. She is a friend of the show. This is at least her third appearance, which puts her in a special category. I think on Saturday Night Live, after 5 appearances, you get something.
Oh.
So we haven't.
They didn't give it to me.
Privilege points.
Mayor, were you
About
on
8
there
or 9
5?
times,
8
yeah.
or 9 times, so you must have something. You're in the
Wouldn't put me on now,
5-person
though.
club.
They wouldn't put me on now.
No, but they put you on 5 times. You must
Yeah,
have
but-
joined the club. You got a jacket or something.
I didn't get anything. I did not get a jacket, and boy, I mean, could you imagine if they put me on now? Oh,
That would
Their heads would explode.
that would increase their ratings, I think, having the mayor on. So we'll have to think of something for guests that are repeat visitors here. So tonight, Mayor, a lot of people are wondering if you have any thoughts. Recent polling shows Trump increasing his lead in a GOP primary field that does potentially include the governor of Florida.
So
Of course, it will include Nikki Haley.
tell us the breakdown.
So recent polling, of course, when put together, shows Trump actually increasing his lead, even as Governor DeSantis releases his book and is going on kind of a book tour. So 4 new polls show Trump bump, extending his lead over the field, including, of course, Ron DeSantis. A new Emerson poll found Trump with a 30-point lead, 55% to 25% against the Florida governor.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Go ahead.
So
What else?
that is, then that comes after a 26-point lead. The same poll, Emerson, in January, and that one showed Trump up 55 to 29.
That might be a little. Okay. What
Trump
else?
wins a whopping 72% among Republicans with a high school degree or less. So 72% among Republicans with a high school degree or less, so non-college. Also found Trump leads Biden 46-42, where DeSantis trailed Biden in this poll 44-40.
How could you trail Biden? Could you imagine him debating? I mean, let's say DeSantis. Maybe DeSantis couldn't handle it. He would have to. I don't know if I could handle debating him.
Right? Well, you'd be up there thinking this isn't real, right? This guy's
This
is a
joke
joke.
get him a doctor or something.
Yeah.
I can't help him.
So the big picture, of course, this comes along with some other recent polls. A Yahoo News poll shows Trump up 8 over DeSantis. This is after DeSantis had led Trump by 4 in that same poll just at the beginning of the month. And another one shows Trump up 15 points over DeSantis. The same poll showed Trump only up 2 points a month
So
ago.
what do we? Why don't we
story
speculate
here-
on what we attribute it to? What has happened in the last month or two that would do that? We have
East Palestine.
We have East Palestine, but that was we have Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Well, we got
China.
We got a kind of big China big.
China big, and who's the best on China?
He is, and I think but you know what doesn't make sense? It doesn't make sense that DeSantis isn't beating. If this is a Biden slip as opposed to a Trump jump, then DeSantis should be beating Biden.
Well, maybe it's a Trump bump and not a Biden slip. Maybe it's
I think.
If China becomes the big issue and infrastructure in rural parts of the country like East Palestine, does that not help Trump more than anybody?
Yeah. East Palestine is a perfect rationale for the Trump presidency. I mean, it is exactly why he became president, because people feel left out, and because the Democrats have an elitist, horrible, arrogant attitude towards them. I mean, I've never seen anything when we went there.
Yeah.
And you just listen to the people and how they were treated by the administration. I mean, I would say, not using the word loosely, they have come to hate Biden because they feel he hates them.
What that being said, what was the sentiment when you were in East Palestine among the people living there, their sentiment towards President Trump being president, while Buttigieg came very late and Biden is nowhere to be found? He's in Ukraine.
Buttigieg, they paid no attention to. He was in the crowd and nobody even paid attention to him. The mayor talked to me and kept him waiting 45 minutes. And then the congressman walked out on him. I would say that the people have a better attitude than you would think. Right. I think even though they're very, very upset and very shook up and don't know what to believe because they've been lied to so much, they're essentially tough Americans, and they feel like they'll get their way through it, particularly once they get past a Biden presidency, and they have a Washington that will help them. But I think that it shows the real weakness of the current Democrat Party, which is a completely elitist party. That whole center of America means nothing. And these are very, very good people. These are people who work hard.
And now they're admitting that there's chemicals in the air, and the EPA guy, they're all telling the kids don't play in the creek, like you're admitting there's something wrong now.
And it comes after. It might be helping also all these things on COVID falling apart too. All the lying that the Biden administration did, and all the forcing of people to wear masks and take the vaccine. And although Trump started much of this, he had a much less authoritative or fascist attitude about it. It was much more if you want to, as opposed to you must. And Biden was a dictator, and I think people are feeling it. I think they're beginning to feel it. But I think look, it's very early, and as we have seen in the last couple of weeks, the world is so close together that a little thing can just blow up into something very, very big and very political. So there's there are a lot of other things that are going to happen between now and the election. Although I think Mike is right that crime crime is the key.
Justine, anything to add here?
Well, in speaking on crime, it seems as though our left-wing leaders are protecting these terrorists, not just criminals, but gangsters, members of MS-13. El Salvador, they just rounded up, I believe in one day on Friday, 2,000 MS-13 gangsters and gang members of these other terrorist groups. Finally, but the prime minister claims that he was inspired to do this by America's inaction, by leftist leaders protecting these terrorists as if they're just merely victims of society. Isn't that embarrassing for
Yeah,
this?
it is, and it's a real battle that's going on about.
Oh, certainly.
I think communism is moving forward. You see it in South America, not as much in Africa, but you see it in South America. You can see it in the United States, and I do think a lot of Americans have come to realize it. You can talk about the communist conspiracy to take over America now and not be looked at like you're crazy. If we talked about this 10 years ago, they would think we were McCarthyite nuts. Now people look at it and say, particularly people that are somewhat educated, they'll say, oh, they tore down our education system. Isn't that what Marx said was one of the first things you had to do to take over a country? Oh, they don't allow prayer in school. Isn't the first thing you have to do to take over a country get rid of belief in God? Isn't that what Marx and Engels said? Now, here's a big one. One of their great themes was, in order to take over a country, you got to get a country to hate itself, which is what they did and what we repeated. Tear down statues, make all your heroes villains, just tell the bad things about a country, not the good things, burn the flag, kneel during the national anthem, talk only about the bad things that happen in the country and magnify it. So now you look at all these things and you put them on a chart. I could do another 10 because I've done it on a chart. And then you say, what do they have in common? What they have in common is they are classic teachings of Karl Marx.
Yeah.
And they're all happening to us at once. Do you believe in coincidences that much? No.
And while so many people are willingly sticking their heads into the sand. And another issue is that there's so many young people who are just gladly following along with this when they're not old enough to understand the Chinese Cultural Revolution. They are just willingly taking part in a new cultural
How bad is that? Because I meet a lot of young people like you and who seem very aware, very on top of it. And also I remember a while back going to schools and the students seem more conservative than the teachers. The teachers seem like crazier than the students. So I was hoping that maybe in the younger generation, there's a little less of that left wing. But then when I hear about, the kinds of experiences that you had or the brainwashing that goes on, or the wokeness things, or the white privilege examinations, scares the hell out of me.
It's pretty frightening, and sometimes I get a little bit of hope that there are young people waking up to this, but that's really just because I've surrounded myself with a bunch of people who are part of groups like Turning Point USA and Young Republicans who have already woken up to this. But I remember before even they started drumming in BLM and you can be different genders. When I was young, when I was in elementary school, they started drumming the idea into our heads of self-love. everything was about self-love. Love yourself. And it's great to
Yeah, well, that's another narcissism is another major objective of communist teaching.
Exactly. And the way they do that is that they tell you that any view that differs from your own is an existential threat, and that needs to be met with sometimes cases of physical violence.
I would often give a commencement speech in which I would conclude that the only way you can find happiness in life is to find your place in the world and how to contribute, because you're not going to be happy if your goal is what is being taught by the hedonists, which is it's all about me and it's all about making myself happy. The fact is that's a completely false sense of happiness that that disappears every time your mood changes.
Exactly.
Whereas feeling that you're making a contribution, figuring out your role in life, how you fit, what you can give, is complete happiness. It's also the best social service network you can have, a group of friends who care about you, instead of a government that doesn't care. Governments don't love people. People love other people. Governments don't exist to love you. So this is it's a major turning point. I guess the real answer to our question, Justine, is there are a lot of young people like you. There are a lot of young people like what we're talking about, and what are the numbers and how are they going to play out? And my hope is that among the ones that aren't like what you're talking about, there's a lot of room for change as you grow older. People do tend to become more conservative as they grow older. But there needs to be a basic common sense there for that to happen.
I would hope so. And even if people don't grow up to be conservatives like us.
Yeah, they don't. We just don't want them to be communists.
God willing.
They don't have to. No, they don't have to. I agree with you. I like the old liberals. That defended your right, that defended my right to be conservative. I'll defend their right to be liberal. But let's not exclude each other.
Right.
And in a democracy, you're never gonna. I mean, sometimes maybe even on the conservative side, we overdo this. That is, in a democracy, you can never have all your own way. You can't. You can. Otherwise, you're not a democracy. You always have to be willing to sacrifice some of your views to achieve what you want. My hero, Ronald Reagan, used to say, my 80% friend is not my 20% enemy. If you and I can agree on 80% of the positions, we're good friends, because we're never going to agree on 100%. And I don't agree with myself 100% of the time, much less somebody else. Or Reagan would also look at it as, if I can get 50, 60, 70% of my legislation, then I've achieved realism. Right. I would do it as the mayor. I'd begin my tax cut program very high, and then we negotiate. I wouldn't get all that I wanted, but I get a good piece of it. And I turned out to be the only mayor to reduce taxes. But I was willing to sacrifice some of that. I was also willing to accept programs from them that I didn't agree with. I had to make a choice. I had to say to myself, which is more important? Do I have to accept social programs I don't agree with in order to get tax cuts that I need? And let me try to balance them where I get more than they get. But that's how government works. It doesn't work with, like Biden, my will, you will wear masks. And if you don't wear masks, we're going to shoot you on the spot. You will die. If you don't wear your mask, you will die. Where are your papers? Yes.
Well, Mayor, the fastest hour on the internet is up. Maybe do you want to talk about the rest of the week, where we'll be? And of course, thank you, Justine, for joining us. And earlier, Mike, for joining us, running for city council.
And make your contribution to Mike.
Regu for NYC.com.
And take care of our friend, Mr. Pillows. Come on, we take care of each other, right? Mr. Pillows has been getting the heck kicked out of him by the left-wing morons. So go to mypillow.com, code Rudy, and maybe you can get the new pillows, the 2.0, right? Yeah. I mean, they're really extra special pillows. Or you can get the slippers that I love, or find something. Part of it, quite honestly, is to let's support our conservative type businesses. And let's be open about it. They are. They cut us off. They cut him off from everywhere. What the hell they get the right to do that? He makes good pillows. What do his pillows have to do with politics? Except if you're in a socialist or fascist type country. You can beat that by using your money. PatriotMobile.com is another one. Just go PatriotMobile.com/Rudy. Ask them what they can do for you on your rates for your telephone. They can do a lot for you. A lot. Okay. We're going to have more of those in the days to come. But it is important that we begin to think about sticking together and using our economic power to achieve our political goals, which in this case is saving our way of life. So stay with us. Tomorrow I'll be back on WABC radio.com at 3 o'clock. I want to thank Dr. Maria for doing such a great job of filling in for me. I've got to see if they even want me back at this point. And we'll be back here tomorrow night. Okay.